The ones that have PowerPoint, that doesn't work on. So if it's PDF, it works, but if it's PowerPoint, it doesn't. You have a bad fan. You have a bad fan. It's failing. The laptop is going to fail. Yeah, really? Yeah, if you're quiet, you can hear the fans. Oh, okay. So it's okay now? Okay. Maybe tonight you want to change it out. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thanks. Okay, we have to do this? Yeah. Okay. It's time. Hello, good morning. We're going to get started. If someone doesn't mind, can you shut the back door? Can someone in the back shut the door, please? Thank you. Welcome to Tees. I'm Lou Berger. This is Pavan Biram next to me. We have our secretary, Matt Hartley, to thank for pulling things together for us. I believe he's going to try to be remote, although I don't see him right now. This is the IETF. So we have our note well. I guess we failed at shutting the back door. Is that the thing? It's a little noisy back there. Can we shut? Thank you. Thanks, Dieter and Julian. Appreciate it. So I think most are familiar with the note well. It basically says that things we do here become part of our record, and that anything you say is added to the record and is made available in our minutes, on our recordings, and on the audio stream. If you're unfamiliar with the note well, please take a look at the URL on the bottom or at BCP 79. We are streaming audio and video. The video is also recorded and posted to YouTube. Please join the Etherpad. The link is in the usual spot. You can find it on the tools page or shown here. And please help add to the minutes. If you make comments at the mic, either go back and check that your comments were accurately reflected, and that would be very helpful. Oh, and also that your name is properly captured. When you do come to the mic, please make sure to start out by speaking your name for the benefit of the notes and the remote participants. So where do we stand on documents? We've had one recent RFC. It's always nice to have those. So that's great. Thank you to the authors and all those who contributed to that. We have one document that is being processed, that's going through the IETF processing, IESG processing. If you haven't read the document, please make sure you do. It's still pre-IETF last call. I don't know if we have an idea of when that might happen, Deborah. Well, our AD will work to get that through into last call as rapidly as she can. That mic is apparently not working. Okay, so I believe she's saying that it's going to take another few weeks. So it'll be going through processing in April. It looks like our mic is back on. So thank you very much for fixing that. We have one document that is in last call. It's on the agenda. I guess I'll mention here why it's back in last call. This document was actually in the RFC editor queue, which means it had gone through all the approvals to be published. And the authors discovered that there was something that was an important change that was needed. That part was really good to catch it before publication, because if they hadn't caught it before publication, we immediately would have had to start on a revision of it. So that part is fantastic. The one thing that wasn't fantastic is they just went and pushed an update themselves. While our tooling allows that, our process does not. Once the document is gone to the IESG, the working group no longer controls the document. More than that, even if a working group document, the authors don't control the content, the working group does. So there was sort of two, let's call them process fouls. It's not a big deal, but there were two process fouls there. But once a document's with the IESG, the changes to that really need to be approved by Deborah before making those changes. Because they were not, the document got kicked out, and we're back having a last call. Now, it turns out if the right process had been followed, we still would have ended up in the same place. We wouldn't have discovered it. We would have been told that we want to make a change. It's an important change, and you can't do that in the RFC editor queue. You have to, technical changes have to really be coordinated more carefully than that. So that's where we are. We'll hear more on the technical details, and we're looking forward to seeing that last call complete and getting it back to Deborah in the ISG, hopefully even next week. We have 3 documents that have been adopted. I believe at least one of them, maybe two of them are on the agenda. This is the first session. You made it here, so you know that information. We do have a second session later today. So basically, we're going to take a break, have lunch, and then come back. And the big thing is we are not in this room. So if you are coming back, please go to the grand ballroom. Apparently, that's my last slide. Oh, no, apparently this was just hung up. It's not working in full screen mode for some reason. It's really strange. Yeah, sorry about it. We're suddenly having PC problems. Well, sorry about the size, but apparently this is as good as it's going to get. We have 2 sessions. The session 1 agenda has not been changed from what has been posted. Session 2, we have 1 change. The enhanced VPN document was originally put down lower. Since it's a working group document, that's going to be presented before the design team. It doesn't change the timing. It doesn't change what's presented. The only important thing is note that this is a working group document, and so the reference here was wrong. It had pointed to the earlier non-working group document. So that was an error on our part in putting together the agenda, so that's been corrected, and we're going to go in that order. So we have received 1 liaison on the OTNT standardization work plan. I believe CCAMP is leading the response to that. Is that correct? Yes. So I'm seeing Daniele, the CCAMP chair, nodding his head yes. But input is still solicited from the working group. Please feel free to send it to TEAS or directly to CCAMP, either way. As usual, a couple of reminders. We're following a IPR process where before we enter a document into the working group or before it exits with a publication request, we do a formal a poll for our call for our statements that IPR has been disclosed. The IPR polls are directed to authors, contributors, editors, because they're listed in the document, but really it's for anyone in the working group who's participated in the development of the work is asked to respond. So feel free to respond to these even if you are not on the receive line. And please use the mailing list. We definitely allocate time for new work based on discussion. So if there's no discussion on new work, you're at the bottom of the list. And if you have a working group document, using the list is a great way to resolve issues. And authors meetings are really helpful, but a authors meeting is not a decision for a working group document. The decision takes place on the list. Doesn't even take place here. Anything that we do here is also confirmed on the list. So the list is very important. And this time it really is my last slide. And let's see if this works. So hopefully page down works.
Okay, it seems to be working. This is the set of documents that are not on the agenda today. We will go over the status of each of those in the next few slides. First up is the SMP signaling document. We adopted this early this year. There were some comments that were raised during the adoption poll. There were also some unaddressed comments from previous meetings. The authors have indicated that they would address those in the next rev. Next are the two PCE native IP documents. This is experimental work that we adopted last year. There haven't been any changes to the draft since the last IETF, but the authors, however, have indicated that at least one of them, the scenarios document, is ready for last call. As far as the other document is concerned, they would like to wait on it and update it based on how the solution work progresses. So let me ask the first question of the day. How many of you have read the current version of the scenarios document? See a few hands, a bit more than what I expected. So please do give it a thorough read and bring in your comments to the list. Given that this is experimental work, we tend to move faster with these documents. So the chairs would take a call on these after the meeting. Next is the PCE/CC use cases document. A revision for this was published just before the submission deadline. The changes are mostly editorial. There was a section on PCE/CC for SRv6 use cases that got spruced up. Thanks for that. The authors have indicated that they would like to add more details to the section on PCE/CC for SFC use case, and also spruce up the security considerations section while they're at it. Next is the SF-aware topology model. There was a revision published for this as well. The authors have indicated that they would like to make a few additional changes before they can say that it's ready for a young doctor's review. Next is the RSVP RMR extensions document. There haven't been any updates to this since the last IETF. The draft is currently in an expired state. The authors have promised that they would revive it this week. They are looking for some inputs on signaling for ring topologies using express links. So if you have any suggestions, please do discuss that on the list. Next is the T metric recording draft. There was a revision published immediately after the last IETF. It took care of some minor editorial nits, but we are really at a stage where we need somebody to help take this past the finish line. This has been sitting there for a very long time now. Matt Hartley has volunteered to do some work on this, so we're going to give him a few weeks maybe to get this ready for the next step. But it's really running on a very we are almost ready to kill it if it doesn't progress by the next meeting. Last in the set is the tutorial draft that we have that talks about how to make use of the various TE models that we are producing in this working group. There haven't been any updates to this draft since the last IETF, but the authors would like to get some inputs on what else needs to be added in terms of examples in this document. So if you have any suggestions, please do take it to the list. That's all we have in this deck. Next on the agenda is an update on the various T and RSVP models from Tarak.
Just tell us next.
Okay. Oh, I see. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tarek from Juniper this time. So I'm the first presenter, I guess. So I'll be giving you a quick update on the working group drafts, 4 of them. The first has gone for 19th revisions, so quite a bit of those. 10th for the second one. The last one was just published last IETF. So we'll give an overview. Next, please. We'll give a refresher on the drafts and what it covers, the scope, and the updates that we've done to them since last time we met. And then I'll close off with the next steps and some open issues. There are basically none. The first one is the TE tunnel draft. The document contains 2 modules. The IETF-TE Yang and the TE device Yang. The first one covers the non-device specific things that can go on a controller and can go on a device. And the second is specific to device attributes. So in terms of scope, the model will cover tunnels, paths, configuring path attributes, LSPs, and things that can go on the device or off the device, as I was mentioning. Next, please. So updates to this document. First, this module, both modules defined in this document, we're importing the TE types Yang model, and that has undergone a couple of revisions. It's right now sitting in IESG review, as Lou was mentioning. So we've actually aligned to the changes that were done in that imported module, and we proactively applied some of the review comments that we addressed in that module in this draft, so that we don't get the same comments again. So some of those were the replacement of the hex string type for the binary type, and others were like naming conventions. Setting defaults was one of the a good thing to mention for other Yang modeling activities. We got the feedback that setting a default is a good thing usually, where it makes sense. So we've applied this to the TE tunnel model. A couple of examples I'm showing here for the naming convention as well as setting defaults. Next, please. The second update that we've done is we're introducing a grouping to define path computation error information that might be produced for specific tunnels or even a computation request. So this will cover, it's a bit far for me, but it has a timestamp, a reason associated with the computation failure, and it's a list where we have multiple of those, and they are timestamped for when the error happened. And the error reason is right now an identity which can be expanded, or if new identities are needed. Next, please. So similarly, we are introducing a provisioning error information. It's again a list where, you know, an LSP gets instantiated, but it fails to be provisioned or instantiated. So we needed a reason for that. So we have this sitting under the path as well as under the LSP. Some error information for the LSP will be destructive. Others are just notification. So we can actually display them with the LSP state. But the destructive ones, we have to display them or keep the state in a persistent parent attribute. So we chose the path for that. In terms of the contents of this error information, we have a timestamp, we have a textual description, the node where the error occurred on the path of the LSP, as well as possibly where the specific link where the error occurred. Next, please. So that was for the TE tunnel draft. The second one I'm going to go over is the RZP signaling draft. It contains two modules, the base RZP and some extended features in the RZP-extended Yang module. Again, it's signaling specific attributes in terms of scope. It covers the signaling parameters, timers, features for enabling certain RZP features, authentication, bundling, srefresh, hellos, per session, per neighbor, per interface, RZP attributes. Next. The next two drafts are the RZPTE augmentation for signaling RZPTE tunnels and LSPs, and the TE tunnel MPLS augmentation for the generic TE tunnel. In terms of modules, there's the RZP-TE, which is an augmentation for signaling of the TE extensions, and then TE packet, TE MPLS, for signaling MPLS specific LSPs, and then the TE-MPLS Yang module for TE MPLS tunnels, I guess. So the model in terms of scope covers all these attributes and does augment the RZP-based draft as well as the RZPT features. Next, please. So in terms of updates, we have extended the LSP provisioning. One of the signaling methods for LSPs is RZP. I did talk about the LSP provisioning list for errors, and this is just an augmentation of that same list for RZP errors. So we are displaying the message that propagated this error back to the head end. It can be a path error or a reservation delete or whatever it is. So we are displaying the code and subcode as well, the RZP code and subcode, as defined in RC 2205 and 3209. That's it, I guess. Next, please. So in terms of next steps, we have, I'm listing all the drafts with the specific next step for those. For the tunnels, we think it's in a stable state right now, and we would like to request a Yang doctor's review, and then we would like to move to the last call. For the RZP signaling draft, again, we also think it's actually in the Yang doctor's review already, but we haven't got feedback. So if we get any comments, we would like to address them and progress to the working group last call. The last two drafts, we anticipate one more revision before we ask for Yang doctor's review. So chairs, for the first one, we think we're ready for Yang doctor's review.
Yeah, hi, Tarek. Hi, Tarek. Italo speaking.
Yeah.
For the first one, maybe let's postpone the discussion this afternoon. We tried to use this document for MPLS-TP LSP setup, and we found some gaps, and that depends on whether we want to use the same model or not, whether we need to do maybe another update. That's why I have a draft this afternoon
Okay,
describe some of the gaps that we have identified.
okay,
And also what I noticed is that if you look at the T-tunnel model, there are many technology-specific cases, and not all of them are filled into by this model. I don't know whether it's
Yes.
not needed or we have to be done. It has to be done. Yeah.
right. For the second part of the question, the approach we took is that technology-specific augmentations in other drafts will happen to the
yeah.
same model.
Oh, sorry. I was talking about the TMPLS. Sorry. Sorry,
Oh,
I confused.
For
Sorry.
TE-MPLS.
TMPLS, yes.
For
Okay.
MPLS-TP though.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, no,
I would like-
T is okay. Sorry, I misread.
Okay. Yeah, TE-MPLS, we actually put it down there at the bottom. We still need a revision for it.
Okay,
So
so
let's
we
talk
can
about
talk about
what's-
that during the revision. Okay, good. Okay, so I misread your slide. Sorry.
No problem.
So you do have a presentation later on the agenda for MPLS-TP. I think we can revisit it at that point.
Yeah, I was misreading the first line as the last one. Sorry.
No problem.
Hi, Dhruv,
Hey,
Huawei. Tariq and I were having one discussion offline, so I thought like maybe we can use this opportunity to put the concerns out to the working group as well. So my concern was with respect to the Yang TE model, where I wanted to figure out which of the tunnels were PC initiated. And currently in the document, I think we only differentiate between configured tunnels and ephemeral tunnels, but we do not know what is the source of that ephemeral tunnel, whether it is an auto tunnel, maybe an FRR, maybe via REST-conf you have created, or via its PC initiated. So I was wondering if this working group thinks that whether that kind of information is useful, and it will be a very small update, it's not a big change, where you have an ephemeral, what is the source of that ephemeral tunnel. So wanted to see whether the working group feels that that's something that should be in the model.
Do you want me to answer, or Igor, you want to take it?
Well, I can say that basically it's a very reasonable request, so it will be also consistent with what we've done for topologies. To know what was the source of the tunnel creation is a useful information. Probably we also need to put instance as well, so that we would not get into the same situation as we got with topologies. But I think it's a simple change and useful one.
Okay, I agree with Igor, and I would like to say that the origin of instantiation is we can define that in the tunnel model. Like, but if there's some PCEP specific attributes, I guess you will be adding those in separate augmentation.
No, PCEP specific attributes are already there in the PCEP Yang. So we have a reference to your LSPDB.
Right.
There we store the information,
Okay.
but if I want to go to, but that will be only the one which PC is aware of.
Yes.
Yours is a much bigger model.
Exactly.
So if I want to search from there and
Right.
find out which are the initiated one, I wanted to have a reference there as well.
Fair enough. Yep.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for the feedback, actually.
So just to add, so for example, if you want to re-optimize tunnels, you want what was the source, so you wouldn't try to re-optimize PCEP initiated tunnels with RSVP or something like that. Yep.
Okay.
That type of comment is great. It also highlights that while the documents have been out a long time or have a long history, that we have made progress in other areas, and this is a really good time for everyone to start looking at these documents. We need some more reviews of them. I know that before this meeting, I reread, like, for example, just the base RSVP model and saw a bunch of comments that I'll send offline.
Okay.
That, frankly, I didn't remember because I hadn't read it probably in a year. So while the documents have been going under incremental change, we're now are in the end game, and it's really important for everyone in the room and in the working group to start rereading these, because it would be good to resolve some of these issues even before last call as we're going into the Yang Doctor early reviews.
I totally
That'd be
agree.
good, really good.
Yep.
Sorry, one addition to what Lou is saying. So basically, when somebody sees issues with the model, which are not cleared, for example, it's not. It's a very complicated semantics. Sometimes it's not clear. So we want to know that, and we could use this opportunity to put more information into our other draft, like tutorial, to explain and to make more, to be more specific than just to put it into the model description.
Excellent point. Thank you. Yeah, I know, for example, there's one thing in here that I read. It's a different model, not the RSVP model. I think it was, I can't remember, it was maybe the RSVP TE model.
I won't blame you on that.
Yeah, thanks. That it wasn't clear to me where the definition of the behavior comes from. And it's perfectly okay for this group to define a configuration behavior that there isn't a good reference for, but then we have to fill in that same document what the expected behavior is. And it just wasn't clear to me which one it was, because the references, it was pointing to some references, but it didn't make any sense to me. So, so it may be that I just have to send something to the list and ask for a clarification, and the explanation will be, oh, this is a better reference, or yeah, we're actually doing some new behavior. And I can't tell right now.
Okay.
So even if you have just a question, sending it to the list so we can get that clarification text, it'd be really good.
And it will help the authors as well to find where we need to clarify, definitely. So yeah, I encourage working group to give feedback. Thank you, Lou.
Oh, great. No, and
Right.
Good comment. Thank you.
Thanks.
I think Shufang, you're up next. This one sounds a bit weird.
No, not that. Not that. The
One before.
Yeah.
Four. I thought I clicked 5. 4. Sorry.
Yeah, downloaded it. So this is an update on the L3T topology model and the SRT topology model. The L3T topology model has a change that talks about information source. This change is the same thing that we made in the base topology. So so Shufang, if you can talk about that aspect when you get to that slide, that would be useful.
Sure. Good morning. This is
Yeah,
Shufang.
it's actually almost more important to cover that piece, because that's where we have the last call going on right now. So it'd be really good. It'd be really good to cover that and highlight that as part of the last call that's closing on Friday. I don't know if you want to jump there first and then come back and do the rest of the presentation. So I know I'm taking you off.
Yeah, we can do that. Go to the probably very last last few slides. So here.
That it?
Right. So this is also applied to the base T topology model. So we got the feedback from the implementation, and there are some use cases where different protocol instances of the same protocol type could provide some topology information to the model, to the database. So in that case, the model was not efficient to identify which instance of the protocol provided the information. So to accommodate this kind of use case, we added a leaf to the information source structure to indicate which instance of the protocol. So the changes are very simple. Just one additional leaf whenever we have information source. So beside the information source type, we have an instance ID there. So that we'll know which instance this is coming from. The blue part, that's the change. So the same changes now also come to this SRT topologies.
So does anyone have any questions or reservations about this change in the TE topology document? That's great. Since we've been through this a number of times on the TE topology, we've been through the process of last calling the whole of the TE topology document, and this is the only change. Unless we hear objections, we're expecting that we will republish and resubmit for publication the TE topology document. I should say we, actually, it's only me because Pavan's a co-author, so he's recused on this. So I expect that I'll be resubmitting this unless I hear objections either in this room or on the list by Friday. And if not, early next week, we'll resubmit and get back in the processing of it. Okay, great. So let's get back to your.
Right, so I'll give a quick update to two working group documents. The first one is the layer 3 TE topology. By the way, this is Xifeng Liu from Volta Networks. So next slide, please. So here's the augmentation hierarchy. The layer 3 TE topology model augments the layer 3 topology model, which has been already published at the RFC, I think is 8346. And the augmentation, this model will also reference the base T topology model, so make it a TE capable. So we also, to accommodate the packet nature of the topology, so we also augment the TE based topology model to cover the packet specific features. So on the right side, the two yellow boxes show the changes recently introduced. The TE types and the TE packet types. Those two modules are now moved to new draft TE types. So next slide, please. So those are the changes we also made to this model, so that we'll use the newly introduced document. So we use the new TE types and the TE packet types from the new drafts. Next slide, please. So another change we plan to do, not done yet, is the performance metric on the TE link. And the grouping we are currently using from the T types, the performance metrics are two-way metric. And the model, the TE topology model, the link in the layer 3 topology is a unidirection link. So to make the performance metric consistent with the nature of the T-link, we plan to remove the leaves, which is related to two-way performance metrics, make it this structure only one way. Next slide, please. So not much changes, but so we'll confirm this change and have further review going to the next step. That's about it. This draft. The next slide. Another draft whose changes I'm reporting here is the SR and the SRT.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
And it's really on the previous one, and it's an inherited thing. What does throttle mean to you, or what do you expect throttle behavior to be?
Those are specified in the RFC referenced here. So they're trying to have the user to configure a certain throttle value only when the performance, like the delay going beyond a certain throttle value, then will trigger the update.
So the only thing in those RFCs about throttling is throttling control plane messaging.
Yeah.
So this is only for control plane messaging. It's not for data plane.
We could apply it here also.
Okay, so that's an example of where there's not a definition of that anywhere, and we all know people do that, right? And that's fine to configure a behavior that is an industry norm, but we have to define what the expected behavior is when someone sets this. And I know you're inheriting this from the base model.
Right.
And so this is more a comment that I'll send on the base model, but you had it up there, so I had to make the comment.
Luis Contreras from Telefónica. One question here: how you can ensure that the accuracy of these one-way metrics, because the one which a node can perceive is a round trip time, because you have the same time reference and so the raw metric, let's say, is the round trip time. The one-way delay somehow should be processed starting from this round trip time, or either leveraging on the measurement of the two endpoints. So I think that skipping the two-way metrics probably could introduce some kind of errors in the metrics. If you don't have a proper accuracy system in order to ensure that the one-way metric is correct.
So what you're saying is that you rather have the two-way metrics here to make it more measurable, or what's the point here?
What I would say is that keeping the two-way metrics does not damage, let's say, the model. Having the one-way delay is also okay. You have the system that could provide these one-way delay metrics with accuracy, but probably
even for the unidirection link.
I would say that I'm not sure about that, but how we can ensure that we measure properly the unidirectional one-way delay, I'm not sure at all. But I think that keeping the two-way is not bad.
Right. The model is the interface, right? So that's we are not talking about how to make it accurate or how to do the measurement. That's
I can answer that.
Sure.
So the one-way delay requires the clock synchronization between the two endpoints. But if there is no clock synchronization, then you do the two-way, means the round trip, and then you divide by 2. So the use case for the traffic engineering is one-way. So the both ISIS met RFC, OSPF, and the BGPLS that just became RFC, they all define the one-way metric for the path computation use case. So you can still do the two-way measurements, but then the use case is one-way, so you have to divide by 2.
Right. So even if you do the two-way measurement and then you divide by 2, got a one-way delay. So here, from the user perspective, we still only want to see the one-way delay. Am I right? So from the interface perspective, why do we want to have the two-way information there?
But my point here is,
I actually really hate to cut a good discussion off, but you have 3 minutes left. So I think this would be great to have this on the list. And I'll point out that this is actually under throttling, which is completely undefined as far as I can tell. So, Igor, is that okay to later comment?
Just a quick comment to Shufen's remark. Basically, what about bidirectional link, which is not symmetrical? So, for example, if we get bidirectional metric, so how it improves like accuracy in one direction? So that's why basically we consider bidirectional link is a group of 2 unidirectional link and provide separate metrics for each direction.
Deborah, just with either hat of mine on, I think it would help, as we said for other Yang work, add the reference. I think Tom constantly makes that remark. So, like Lou said, add a reference for throttling and for these metrics. It's not for us to debate the validity of these metrics. We're just configuring them. So just add the reference.
Sure. Yeah. That apply to all the documents have the similar kind of features. I assume the TET tunnels and all the others. Next document, that's the SR and the SRT topology. Just recap the hierarchy, which is the same, augment the layer 3 topology. Next slide, please. So make it SRTE, so we have a multiple inheritance, which is TE at the same time is also SR. So in that sense, we'll import SR specific groupings, and also we augment the TE topology model. Next slide, please. The changes are simple. So we, because of the recent update to the Spring SREM model, so we need to update our grouping to get in sync with the new model. Next slide. This one we already talked about. Then that's all we have for today.
So I'm not sure how many actually followed this particular slide. There is no such thing as an SRTE topology module defined in the document. So if anybody is interested in fetching the SRTE topology, they would have to fetch the SR topology and the L3T topology independently. That's the multiple inheritance thing that Shufeng is talking about here. So I mean, if anybody has any concerns about this approach, now would be a good time, because we are getting to the last few revisions for this before taking it to the next step.
Okay, Jidong from Huawei. Yeah, actually, I'm just asking about the SRT topology model, because I checked the draft. There's the SR topology model defined, but I didn't find the SRT topology model in the draft.
That's right. There's no such model. So you just construct an instance, make it SR at the same time as TE. So if you have both attributes enabled, then you have SRTE.
This is an example where I think the authors completely understand what they want to do, but a reader who's not following along is entirely unclear how to make it work. And I felt the same thing, and it took me I must have missed something, and reread it, and then figured out, oh, this is how it's supposed to work. But it's non-obvious. It's completely non-obvious. Yes. So some additional text there about how to make it work would be really, really good. I think to Bhavan's point, it's a good one, is that this is a particular approach or solution approach that's been taken in the draft. We could take a different approach which combines the information, so you only have to go to one place. The flip side of that is then you have the same information available in two models, and that also is not considered to be a great design approach. So there is a trade-off here.
All right, thanks.
So this is the updated one that came during the session, or came just before. Hopefully there's no caching involved, and we have the right one, but you might have the old version.
Yeah. Okay.
But there is a new version that was uploaded during the session, so hopefully we have it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Sergio Bellotti from Nokia. I'm going to present an update about path computation young model request. Next slide. So the summary of changes with respect to the previous version. Basically, we added. There has been some discussion in the mailing list requesting the possibility to set up a path that is already computed using path computation RPC. The path computation RPC is stateless. Theoretically, there is no memory of the path computed. So we added a procedure in order to maintain some temporary state that enable a client to require the setup of the tunnel related to the computed path. The client can request the setup of a computed path, creating a TA tunnel with the same name with respect to the computed path of the name of the computed path, basically exploiting the NDA concept is stored in the operational state from server, and the client can utilize the same name and provide the setup of the tunnel in the running data store. There is a possible problem of stranded state. To avoid that, there is, in case you request the possibility to have this feature of path ID, you have to set up a default timer to request the path computation request. And an option, you can also use a transaction ID, the transaction ID that can encompass all path computed under one request, and one path has been computed, the other that is not useful anymore can be deleted, linked to this transaction ID. This can be done or by RPC, the late RPC that has been already defined, or automatically. Basically, the behavior is more similar to what is computed only in the TA tunnel, but obviously relying on the fact that the path computation is stateless, and so need to have another mechanism. The solution has been described in section 3.3 and 3.3.1, and reflecting also the discussion. Has been the other changes. This is the basic changes that is impacting also the Young model. Then the Young model has been also aligned to the last version of Young TA types, and the Young TA Young modules, for which we have normally coordination weekly to align and to not create some gap between two. So there is a so next slide. So this for the changes. Then there has been a couple of items that has been discussed in the mailing list. One issue that is a new one, and basically there have been required if our path computation Young model can be also used in case of distributed path computation, distributed environment, so is a flat. Basically, if you read the draft, there is assumption and use cases described in which always there is a hierarchical structure of the controller. So the request here is that in case you have a multi-operator environment, it is not mandatory that you have the possibility to have a multi-domain coordination that is able to coordinate the different domain if this domain are belonging to different operators. So we try with the picture. Okay, no, this one is not the last one. The picture is the last one. It's not the last version. Okay.
I uploaded it.
Okay. Anyway,
I uploaded,
come back.
I did upload it,
Okay.
and, you know, there's caching involved.
Okay, go back again, just try to, okay. We tried here to depict a picture to show how, in fact, the model can also match the requirement for a distributed contest. Well, basically the picture has been changed because there has been comment that in case you have multi-operator environment, it is not mandatory to have a full link of connectivity between a controller and the MDSC and the other PNC, but you have a bilateral session. But basically, the point is that in the CTN architecture, there is no mandatory that the MDSC and PNC should be different device. You can have also a PNC that has the MDSC functionality, and basically here we try to depict like a sequential status like the RPC to create in order to cope with the requirement to have also a distributed environment for path computation. Next step, in the new picture that we can see in the next version, you can understand better what is the status. Well, this issue, well,
Igor, do you have a question on the previous issue, or?
No, I have a question of the first issue that you mentioned about the stateful path computation, basically. Is it okay to do it now? Or should I wait? I can wait.
No.
Yeah. So basically, when we discussed path computation RPC for the tunnel model, okay, the whole point was to provide a mechanism to do stateless path computation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there was a lot of discussions, especially with Michael Scharf and other people who actually insisted that it is a must to have such a mechanism. With respect to stateful path computation, basically we had solution from the get-go, right? So you could compute a tunnel in a compute-only mode, analyze path, and instantiate tunnel at any time. So you can keep it for as long as you want or as short as you want, and that's it. So I don't really understand what exactly the new additional what is required.
The additional one has been already discussed because we analyzing the draft, what is the gap and the problem with also the path computation only solution. And here we just try optionally to get the possibility, to have the possibility to calculate the path and as already computed, and the client can ask for the computed path when normally in the case of a stateless situation, you don't have this possibility to ask later. This is the difference. But we exploit on the fact that we have MDA new definition, and so we do not impact configuration store, but we just use the operational state and to store what is the information, the transit information for the path computation, and give the possibility to the client to require the instantiation of the path computation. So related to the path computation only solution, there has been already a discussion. This is just an optional feature that we can provide to the client since in the mailing list there was requested to do that, but with path computation request, not with other things.
But what you described, it's exactly how the setup tunnel in path computation mode is supposed to work. Basically, you ask,
Yeah, but Igor, we
What
have
is the
already
difference?
this discussion, and the point is that for the path computation only solution in the tunnel model, there is all the connectivity matrix that has to be applied with all information. So there is all the offloading of this information. This stuff already described in the draft. It is not in the context of the parallelism of the two features.
Igor.
I disagree, but.
Igor, I think you're missing one point,
Yeah.
that in this case, the state is temporary. So the difference is that with the compute only, the
I
client,
said a temporary state.
the client creates the state and the path remains computing in the state forever as long as the client doesn't delete the state. In the stateless path computation, you don't create any state, and this is something in the middle where the state is remembered by the server for some time and allows the client to request to install exactly the same path that has been computed without going into a complete stateful solution.
Well, but we can just set the time, time limit as to for how long the computed path for the tunnel should be there, and that's it.
I don't think so, because you have a state in the running data store. If you create a state in the running data store, you have to delete it.
No, not necessarily if you set a limit.
It's actually, we're actually into the lunch break.
Yeah.
Our proposal is that to continue the discussion maybe over lunch.
Okay?
We're going to resume right after lunch, and we're going to steal a few minutes from others and give you another 10 minutes to continue, hopefully, with the updated
This
slide.
is getting a habit for the path computation also.
Yeah, please make sure to come back on time, otherwise you'll lose your slot.
Right. So we're now into the lunch break. We're going to resume at 1:50 in the grand ballroom. We'll do our normal little intro, and then we'll take up, hopefully, with the right slide deck.
Okay, so you can upload the right slide.
It was uploaded, it didn't download.
Blue sheets, yeah, okay.
No. I'm going to talk for a few minutes with someone now. I actually know why it didn't cache. It wasn't that it was necessarily the cache didn't update, but to get the new version, you have to hit reload, because the way they do the links, they do an explicit link to the version number. So I didn't hit reload on this page. And because they didn't hit reload on this page, I didn't hit it. Which is sort of ridiculous. I mean, if they just remove the 0th version, you get the latest version.